So I was 15 years young when I was introduced to weed. I was going to my third year of high school, and for a long time in my life, I never had a lot of friends. I felt very alone. I felt very lonely. Never was able to fit in with a lot of people. And for this year, I told myself, I'm going to change that. I'm going to become better, and I'm going to make sure that I have friends. I'm going to make sure that I'm going to be surrounded by people that I can grow with, that I can feel good with, that I don't have to be by myself anymore. Okay, and so the first day I saw like this guy and he looked cool. I was like, you know what? I'm going to approach him. I'm going to introduce myself. I'm going to shake his hand. He looked like the typical kid who would be who would go into fights, who would be dominant, who would make sure that nobody could mess with him. Walked up to him. Mind you, I had long hair. I had a Justin Bieber type hairstyle. I wish I had a picture of it, but I don't, sadly. So I looked a bit like a pussy, honestly. Like a girl, to be honest. And I walked up to him, shook his hand, introduced myself like, hey, my name is Mark. What's your name? He said, my name is Michael. I was like, okay, Michael. Damn, that's a cool name, bro. Not gonna lie. And I just hung around with him. But Michael smoked weed. And as I made myself the promise to not be alone anymore, and I wanted to have friends, I wanted to fit in. I wanted to show him like, yeah, you know what, I can smoke weed too. I've smoked cigarettes before. This is nothing, I can do this. And I pretended that I already smoked weed. So after school, we hung out and he rolled up a joint. So he was taking a couple of hits and I was being a bit impatient, I wanted to smoke the weed, honestly. But as I didn't know how it usually works, the one who rolls the weed usually takes a couple of tokes. Most of the time here in Belgium, he smokes like half the joint and you get like half of it. You do a couple of tokes and you pass it over to him. I was like, yeah, bro, pass it over to me. And he looked at me like strangely. He started laughing. Like, bro, relax. Okay. I was like, oh, okay, fuck. I don't want to look like an idiot. Fuck it. Let him do his thing. He passed over the joint to me. I smoked a bit, passed it over to him. And that was how I was introduced to weed. The years passed by, we grew to become better friends, and I had a group of people around me. I was acknowledged by girls, I was acknowledged by other guys, and I had a honestly, for the first time in my life, I didn't feel alone. I went to parties, I got drunk, I did a lot of crazy stuff that I'm not necessarily going to mention here, but my life wasn't boring anymore. I didn't feel like I was just a lonely kid. I didn't feel like I was ever bullied, and I had like personality, I had like aura. I was finally a cool kid. Finished high school. Then it was time for me to jump into the real world, the hard-working world. But there was one thing that I didn't know how to do. I didn't know how to overcome it. And that was to deal with pain, discomfort, and just simply the reality of life. So I got into the working world and I was faced with discomfort. I didn't want to be here. I don't want to be surrounded by these people. I don't want to work in this warehouse job with people who are 40 years old, who are negative, who are pessimistic, who have so many hours on their sheets that they can't even take them up this year. And they can't never take it up. So it's like wasted time that they have worked, but they would have rather spent that with their family or doing different things, like sleeping, for example. Everybody was sleep deprived. Everybody was stressed. Everybody was angry. I was like, damn, I don't want to be here, bruh. I don't want to make sure that I end up in the same position as them. I have to make something out of myself. I have to make something out of my life. So fuck it. Let me follow that dream that I once had of wanting to become an artist. So I quit working that job. Wanted to focus on becoming an artist. But I couldn't. I sat down to do the work and no progress was being made. It was difficult. I promised myself like, yeah, I want to do it. I want to make sure that I can overcome this. I want to make sure that I have financial stability. I want to make sure that I can get myself a house, that I can marry myself a woman, that I can make sure that my parents don't have to think about the financial issues anymore. But I can't work. My brain isn't working. Fuck. You know what? I'm just going to smoke a joint, bro. I'm just going to relieve myself. Just going to make sure that I can get my head empty so that I can get back to work. Smoked a joint. What do you think happened? I didn't fucking get back. I didn't get to work. I just wasted my day, wasted my time. And I did that for many years of my life. And I was like, fuck, my life isn't moving forward. What do I do now? How can I improve? How can I become better? Oh, I need to do more. Oh, fuck, 6 a.m. morning routine, this, that, which I wasn't able to stick to anyways, because every time that I wanted to do that, I, for some reason, stayed up the night before to smoke weed and to then go late to bed. And when my alarm went off at 6 in the morning, I didn't fucking hear it. So I'd missed it, would wake up depressed, in a rut, filled with hatred, angry for myself, because I knew that life wasn't moving forward, and I fucked up. What did I do again? Smoke weed. Relieve me from the stress. Relieve me from the pain. Relieve me from the discomfort that I'm feeling. Years passed by, and nothing changed. I was exactly the same person for many years, up until I had a moment of awakening in my garden when I realized, fuck, I'm still in the same position that I was in before, and I'm still doing the same habits that I did before. I have to change it. I have to overcome this. But how? How do I overcome this? Okay, I know that I'm not doing something that is good for me. I know that smoking weed isn't the right thing for me to do. So I started to look up on the internet, how do I overcome my addiction to weed? Which, by the way, I wasn't addicted to weed. And one of the first things that I learned was you have to tell yourself that you are not a weed smoker. I was like, what? The fuck you mean I don't have to tell myself that I'm a weed smoker? But this is who I am. This is how I see myself. Exactly. And this is where it started for me. I started telling myself, I'm not a weed smoker. I'm not a weed smoker. I am not a weed smoker. I started to distance myself from that identity that I had. And I started to replace it with things that I would see myself as. I am disciplined. I am motivated. I can do hard things. I can put in the work. I can make sure that I persevere. I am working every day on making myself better. Started to have all of these affirmations that would change my identity. And I started to see myself differently when I looked into the mirror. But then in the real world, it felt strange, because I had friends who smoked weed. I had friends who did all of that. And I didn't necessarily see myself as that person anymore, so I started to feel like some sort of distance between me and them. I had to cut off the connection with them. I had to distance myself completely so that I could reshape my identity the way that I wanted to be. Because the more that I did that, the more that I had that awareness and implemented the affirmations of I'm disciplined, I'm not a weed smoker, I don't go to parties, I persevere, I push through hardships, I love pain, I love discomfort. The more that I did that, I started to recognize other areas that contradicted that into my life. And then I had to take action, okay? It contradicts who I see myself as. And by doing that, I step by step then started to align my life to the right thing. And while I was reflecting on the decisions that I was making on overcoming weed, on overcoming other habits even, like porn addiction and video gaming, the same thing reappeared, and that was I have a hard time with overcoming pain. And that is something that I had in the past as well when I was 15. Because the reason why I started to smoke weed was because I had pain. I felt pain because I was lonely, or at least I saw myself as somebody who wasn't capable of having people, and that I couldn't be myself, and that I couldn't attract the right people into my life. So I took on that persona of somebody who smokes weed in order to fit in, but I never felt like I was myself. Luckily, or also not luckily, the weed always numbed that thought. But as the years developed, and I saw that my life wasn't moving forward, I thought to myself, fuck, I'm not where I really want to be. And that's when I dug deep into my habits. And the more that I aligned myself to who I wanted to be, I started to see all the patterns that were contradicting everything that I wanted to do. So I used to have this whole list of affirmations, and I would read those affirmations every morning, and I would write those affirmations down by hand even, just to further enhance it, to further remind myself, this is who I see myself as. I am a man who can manage discomfort. I am a man who can overcome pain. I can manage my emotional behaviors. I am not an emotional man. I am a strong, masculine man. I was reminding myself of that every morning for a good year. I have a lot of journals where I have just exactly the same things over and over and over again. I made it a bit difficult for myself, but I needed it. I didn't have nobody to teach me how to do it, so I had to teach myself how to do it. It was absolutely fucking hard. It was brutal. It was not easy, but I still managed to book results. And as I was doing that, and I was evaluating every evening by asking, first I would set myself the intention in the morning, in my journaling session of the morning. Then in the evening, I would reflect upon if I made progress towards the things that I wanted to do. And then I would ask myself, why did I not achieve that? And then I would write the emotions down that I experienced. Oh, I felt discomfort. Oh, I felt pain. Oh, I was afraid. Oh, I felt insecure. And then I just had more awareness and more data that I could then use and work on and persevere and push through. And one of the mindsets I used to tell myself is growth lies behind a very thin wall of discomfort. So as I had that mindset, I just kept pushing through, kept persevering. And eventually I successfully stopped smoking weed. I successfully became better. I haven't smoked weed in 3 years. And I'm very aware of that thing that I have inside of me that doesn't want to be in pain, that doesn't want to feel discomfort. That's resistance. What's funny and also not funny is that our brain is designed for some reason to be comfortable. It is designed, like our brain just doesn't like us to go through pain. It wants us to be comfortable. It wants us to be good, but that's the thing. That's not good. What our brain usually tells us is exactly the opposite of what we need to do. Sometimes your brain will tell you, punch that person. Are you going to punch that person? No, you do the opposite of what your brain tells you. Now, if your brain tells you, go do the dishes, go fucking do the dishes, you know? That's good. That's something that you have to do. You have to recognize what is good for you and what is bad for you. And the only way for you to recognize what is good for you and what is bad for you is by setting the intention for yourself what good and bad is, because this is also very subjective to how you want to see it. And so to be able to set your mind on the right perspective, to be able to see the things that are good for you, you have to write the things down that are good for you. Now, how do you know what is good for you? Set a goal. So for me, that was I want to stop smoking weed. Then I had all the actions that I needed to take that would contradict the habits that I was doing that got me to smoke weed. And so I had to act on them. And as I was acting on them, I was feeling discomfort. I was feeling pain because I was going against the person that I saw myself as. But do that long enough, override that long enough, and your brain has no other option but to believe that you are that person. So by repeatedly doing that, I successfully changed my identity. I successfully changed my habits. And I do habits that get me closer to not smoking weed. Does this mean that I instantly overcame that? No, it took me a lot of time. It took me a lot of trial and error. I failed, I succeeded, I failed, I succeeded. But the thing is, with every time that I quote unquote failed, I always learned something new. It just gave me more data, which brought me more awareness to other areas that I should improve that could then completely get myself to overcome that. So don't expect that you can change this habit in 1, 2, 3, but there's a way that you can speed up the process. And you can find that out by going to the first link in the description box and clicking it. Go do that right now. So I hope you've been able to get some value out of this video. I want to wish you a very nice day, and always remember that you are 100% responsible for the results in your life. Make the hard decision today, and I'll see you in the next one. All right, bye-bye.